knocked loose. You won't go before you're supposed to. The third full-length album from this band. My first time listening wise from this band was a tear in the fabric of life. I've known about this band for years. Of course they've been memed. Of course, even though when I went to see them touring while they were opening for Gojira and blasted them out the fucking water, apparently, of course I had normal earplugs and not the cheaper versions of eargasms, basically. I didn't have those to be able to probably hear Gojira properly like I wound up doing during their tour with Mastodon, where they were a short open for them, and I feel like they were being held back because, especially given the stage setup where Mario's drums were pretty much already in front and all this other stuff. Yeah, so because Knocked Loose had showed them up from the last time they came to the factory, and I didn't want that happening again, and yeah. And everywhere they went, so that's kind of why they made sure that it wasn't the case. But so I got to hear Knocked Loose at the best. Well, at least at some form of one of their better shows, so better sets at least. So at that point, I was impressed, and I've been wanting to check out and see what they would do next full length. And y'all knew how I felt about the Upon Lost singles. I was willing to somehow include them in my best of last year. And I wouldn't also, given that it turns out that the guy that I thought it was Will Putney that was apparently producing those singles, apparently not. It's the same guy that did this record, which name escapes me, but it's clear the guy that had to basically replace Will Putney because he's busy with Better Lovers. I think we're supposed to be getting an album at some point from that band later this year. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And it seems some people have been complaining about it, but I think it has more to do with how thirst is when you don't see it coming because you chose to leave your speakers up all the fucking way instead of at a safe volume. So I'm guessing that's what happened when Rocked and even listened to it super, super loud in unsafe volumes, which was their own damn fault. Because it seems from what I've listened to from the record and what with the in-ears that I have through YouTube Music, streaming YouTube Music, and from what... and it's also a possibility I have these Soundcore, which are cheaper in-ears in comparisons to, or at least these are the cheaper ones of that brand that I utilize. Particularly, I like to use these specific ones that are I think the Life Notes. That actually, for some reason, I like the way those feel for me. I have the other ones that I use for other things, but I mostly bought those because the Life Notes don't work as... But anyways, point being, Knocked Loose, and even binge through their stuff to where I can make a proper assessment. From Pop Culture EP, even up to this point. What was it? And yeah, musically, they do a little bit more, idealistically wise on this record, or at least they've hinted at some of the ideas they would do coming off of having worked on. Also, the vocals I realize have a difference to the way they come across on this record compared to Apollo singles. Sorry, it's late. That are a little different. And plus it's 27 minutes long. It's a pretty breezy run. Thirst was just a nice little tease to lead into This record, the shortest track at 1 minute. Well, actually, no. The shortest track is actually Moss Covers All at 47 seconds. Good's Thirst being close by, Piece by Piece, which they followed up, and then, of course, the singles following that, the Poppy featured Suffocate, which is definitely one of the better tracks on this record. Don't Reach For Me was definitely one, as well as, of course, the other single, Blinding Faith. Muscle Resolve is pretty good. Take Me Home is interesting, and I think there's moments on this record where because they're from Kentucky, some bluegrass does seep in. What else too is which features Chris Motionless, a sort of pseudo-ish sequel to the song frontman Brian Garris did with Chris Motionless in White's band Motionless. It's his band Motionless in White. That's what I meant to say. Try saying what I said 5 times fast. You'll understand why I was tongue twisted. Anyways, Calm That Keeps You Awake's pretty brutal, and Sit and Mourn. So basically, from what the singles alluded to, or at least the way they ended with Everything's Quiet Now, with the Palma singles, no matter what, they were going to go this dark ambient-y route with this final song, with this final record. So it almost, like, I almost wouldn't be surprised if they do decide to release a deluxe edition with the Palma singles as like an extra little added bonus ending, and it would still kind of work. Honestly, though, for some reason, because it was a side quest, well, in the middle of the record, they must have found, maybe they did complete it recording wise, and then they just did this. Like, they claim they didn't, but for some reason the production says otherwise, because the way this album was either produced or mastered or something with those singles, somehow, for being kind of a last minute or side quest, those somehow come across sounding possibly kind of better production-wise than some of what happens on this album to me. But even still, and there's a loud factor here, but it's not as much of a clipping issue. At least not at the highest safe volume it isn't. I mean, if it does, it's because you're not prepared for it. Because then I turn it up after I'm already ready for it, and it doesn't happen again. So yeah, I feel like it's more people using either these super high-end ones that are somehow able to come off louder than the headphones I've got. Like they're using in-ear monitors, or particularly the status audio in-betweens. Bluetooth in-ears that are literally meant to resemble something of it, like that of an in-ear monitor. So, at least in terms of its sound producing. So, I feel like that's probably has something to do with it. I don't know what Metal Meltdown's been using, and how he's been listening to it, but I haven't had this issue with the way I've been listening to it, even through the Star Stereo the night of, and even through listening to my in-ears when I did, and I had, even while I was mowing, but I also had an extra set of protection on top of that to kind of coat some extra acousticing. So that really played a part in it too. Regardless, I'm saying too long, but for the most part when it comes to this album, I like this record. I still like this record a lot. I just don't know if I like it more than Forever and I do want to come back. Feel like I'm going to probably come back to this, and there's plenty enough time this year. I probably will. But yeah, I like this record. A bunch. The Poppy track is definitely one of the highlights. The final track, Sit and Moan, as well. I do like the other singles as well. I also Suffocate has as Nick Nocturnal pointed out in his reaction, the breakdown is very reggaeton inspired. And they do all sorts of other little slight intricacies. The one that is Sit and Moan is the most post-metally, or at least the most dark ambient guitar oriented in a similar way to Everything Is Quiet Now. And some of what was already being teased with from being stupid here, with A Tear in the Fabric of Life. But other than that, yeah, I kind of, overall, I do still like this record a lot. Probably a lot more than, maybe not as much as Thralls of Metal, but probably definitely more than even this is one of the bands one of my cousins who is subscribed. I think he's still subscribed to his channel. I hope he is. Hi, James. Anyway, but yeah, I enjoyed this record a lot. Man. And I had even more fun actually deciding to go through the discography, which was a lot shorter than I expected. Going through this, as their style is very also considered amongst the metalcore bands that are more rooted in the hardcore, or at least the more late 80s to early 90s beat down hardcore, before some of the more crossover thrash bands that were influenced by groove metal eventually seeped into, or at least there was a weird like molding point that eventually became some of the hardcore, the metalcore that was in the late 90s, that eventually led to, before the melodic metalcore scene boomed like it did, and yet alone deathcore in the 2000s. So that's where they're bringing some of that back in. There's still some death metal-y elements, and there's still some angular riffing that is very mathcore-y, reminiscent of your Dillingers and whatnot. A lot of what's going on. If there is a clipping issue, I do wonder if they should have picked, instead of the guy they got, maybe get the dude from Converge. That'd been interesting. I don't know if he would work well with them or not, but he's the only one that has any understanding of hardcore that would probably work. That I know is a producer for them. Well, anyway. Also, speaking of bands that were big for hardcore, or artists, or particularly engineers, I guess I should say, rest in peace to Steve Albini. Chevelle's debut record was probably one of my favorite. It's not. I wouldn't say it's my favorite of Chevelle's, but yeah, Albini did some good stuff on that. So wanted to shout that out as a little side quest of my own. But overall, sorry for the length of this, but being overshadowing and me talking less about the record and more on that, forgive me for that. But I still enjoyed what this record did do, enough that I'm not willing to come back to it. So that's always a good sign in of itself. I feel like I need to check out the first Slaughterhouse, or at least it's the only thing involving Motionless in White I should check out, apparently. From certain people I've heard. But yeah, I've enjoyed this a lot. And, sorry, it's late. I'm waiting to get this out of the way while I can, because it's going to be a busy week for me. IRL, so, yeah. I can't not screw it. I'm going to do it. More out of spite for those that bitched about the clipping shit. That's slightly non-existent unless you actually turn it up way too fucking loud at unsafe volumes, which is stupid. But anyways, fuck it. I'm going to do Light Your Strong Horns Up. Even though I was debating on whether or not I should just do Solid Keep It Real to Solid Horns, but honestly, I have a feeling this would actually be a good enough grade given what I feel like I might be going back to with this record later on. There might be other records I go to, but yeah. As far as bands that have, like, I could tell this band kept getting better and better in its own right, and to a degree they do musically. I wonder if there's certain aspects of the production, depending on how you listen to it, may hold it back for some people, but not in as bad of a way as some records have. But anyways, I'll also probably leave in the comments section my post that I will eventually have for their entire discography. I will more than likely include both the pop culture and Tearing the Fabric of Life EPs, as well as the Upon Less singles, specifically on top of the 3 albums as part of it. Just clarify what I'm willing to do with, given how small their discography actually is. So, yeah. As far as full lengths. But, what do you guys think of this album from Knocked Loose? You won't go before you are supposed to. What did you think? Leave a comment below, let me know. I also would recommend listening to the recent podcast this past week involving Knocked Loose from Metal Philosophy, as well as I think, I'm trying to remember the podcast, but it was also one of the sources and as well, it was in 2 interviews, Nick Nocturnals, and the other that he also utilized in the other interview, which I didn't know about until Metal Philosophy did his thing. John Barbas did, but yeah, good shit. I can't not say it's good shit, because even the people who are bitching about it are still not saying it's bad, because it's not. It's beyond solid. And like I said, like the strong horns up. But what did you guys think? Leave a comment below, let me know. If you like this video, rock that like button, thrust if you must. Hit the subscribe button and rock that notification bell as well if you liked anything I had to say. So, as always, guys, and we're willing to stick for me as long as my tangent went as well and got to this point. So, as always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. And given the summer movie season, I should eventually see some movies. There was one I wanted to see this week because I've seen the other 3 movies. So, at some point I will. But anyways, till then, and until the next review, which will be shortly after this, take care, y'all. Knock loose, motherfucker!